Tonight on Coronation Street, the walls closed in. Not around the killer. Around everyone else. Because just when Weatherfield thought this murder investigation could not get any more explosive, DS Lisa Connorswain made a shocking arrest that nobody saw coming. And the most terrifying part? The person dragged away in handcuffs may not even be the real target. This is Coronation Street Update, your home for the biggest Coronation Street breakdowns, spoilers, theories, and emotional deep dives from the cobbles. And trust us, tonight's developments changed the entire direction of Theo Silverton's murder mystery. Because this story is no longer just about revenge. It's about strategy, manipulation, power, and people desperately trying to stay one step ahead of the truth. And that's when things take a darker turn. From the very beginning, Theo Silverton's death has hung over Weatherfield like a storm cloud that refuses to move. But unlike recent Corrie storylines built around emotional collapse, this murder mystery has become something colder, more calculated, more dangerous. Every suspect has a motive. Every suspect has secrets. And every single conversation now feels like a chess match. At the center of it all stands Lisa Connorswain. Determined, focused, controlled. Because for Lisa, this case is personal in more ways than one. A dead body being discovered on your wedding day is not exactly something you forget. But Lisa is also starting to realize something deeply unsettling. This investigation may have been manipulated from the beginning. And tonight, the first cracks started appearing. The episode wastes absolutely no time throwing viewers straight into the tension. Lisa and Kit Green continue dissecting the growing suspect list piece by piece. But what makes this storyline so gripping is the sheer contrast between their methods. Kit operates on instinct. Lisa operates on evidence. And right now, those two approaches are colliding in fascinating ways. Kit still has his eyes locked firmly on Gary Windass. Honestly, can you blame him? Gary's violent history follows him everywhere. A man with blood already on his hands. A man caught smashing Theo's van with a sledgehammer only hours before Theo died. That image alone is enough to make anyone suspicious. But then Coronation Street cleverly pivots the attention elsewhere. Because while Gary looks dangerous, Summer Spellman looks terrified. And that changes the emotional energy completely. What happens next is devastating. In one of the episode's most emotionally charged scenes, Summer reveals she is considering pleading guilty to manslaughter. Not because she necessarily killed Theo, but because she no longer believes she can survive the pressure closing in around her. That distinction matters. And it completely transforms the psychology of the storyline. This is not somebody fighting for power. This is somebody trying to escape uncertainty. Harriet Bibby played these scenes beautifully. The exhaustion in Summer's voice. The hopelessness. The sense that she's mentally preparing herself to surrender simply because the emotional war has become too exhausting to continue. And Todd's reaction? Heartbreaking. Because Todd suddenly realizes something horrifying. The investigation may not be finding the truth at all. It may simply be consuming the weakest people first. But then everything changes. Todd attempts to reclaim his phone from the police. Simple enough. Routine. Or so he thinks. Instead, Lisa's response completely blindsides him. Because the phone has suddenly become far more important than anyone realized. And this is where the storyline becomes genuinely clever. For weeks, viewers have been distracted by emotional motives. Hatred. Abuse. Revenge. But Corrie is now shifting into something more strategic. Evidence. Movement. Timing. Who handled what? Who knew where things were? Who was trying to cover their tracks? Suddenly, Todd's missing phone becomes one of the most important objects in the entire investigation. That discovery at the pawn shop changes everything. Because now the murder mystery stops being abstract. Now it becomes physical. Trackable. Dangerous. Lisa immediately sends the phone for forensic testing. And what comes back shocks everyone. Fingerprints. Brody Michaelis. And just like that, the entire atmosphere shifts again. Because Brody is not one of the 6 major suspects. He is not part of the original emotional battlefield surrounding Theo. Which raises a chilling possibility. What if somebody else is moving pieces behind the scenes? What if Brody was manipulated? Used? Paid? Or maybe he simply stumbled into something far bigger than he understands. And honestly, that possibility feels far more dangerous. Because the moment a murder investigation expands beyond its original circle, chaos follows. The arrest scene itself was classic Coronation Street drama. Public, sudden, humiliating. Lisa arriving without warning. Brody protesting his innocence. Sally and Tim watching in total disbelief as the cuffs go on. And then there's Kit. Quietly observing. Listening. Calculating. That tiny detail matters enormously. Because Kit's silence tonight felt loaded with meaning. Almost as though he knows more than he's saying. Or worse. He's beginning to realize the investigation has taken a turn nobody can fully control anymore. And that may not be the whole truth. Because elsewhere in Weatherfield, another dangerous layer continues building beneath the surface. Danielle Silverton. The bitter ex-wife who suddenly finds herself dragged deeper into the spotlight after Ryan places her near the crime scene. That revelation changes her position instantly. Before, Danielle looked emotionally wounded. Now, she looks strategically vulnerable. And Coronation Street is being very careful not to reveal too much too quickly. Every suspect currently represents a different version of motive. Todd represents suffering. Gary represents violence. Summer represents desperation. Danielle represents betrayal. George represents loyalty pushed too far. Christina represents hidden allegiance. And Brody? Brody represents unpredictability. That is why this storyline suddenly feels so addictive. Nobody fits perfectly. Nobody feels fully innocent. But nobody feels completely guilty either. The writers are intentionally creating emotional confusion. And it is working brilliantly. One of the smartest aspects of tonight's episode was how it avoided turning Theo's murder into a simple revenge fantasy. Because let's be honest. Theo was hated. Deeply hated. But Corrie understands that hatred alone is not enough to sustain suspense. Instead, the real tension comes from watching how Theo's death reshapes the power structure of the street itself. Old alliances are shifting. New suspicions are forming. And people who once trusted each other are beginning to second-guess absolutely everything. Even Lisa herself appears increasingly frustrated by the investigation. Especially after admitting concerns about her superiors potentially focusing too narrowly on Summer. That detail is crucial. Because it introduces institutional pressure into the storyline. Suddenly Lisa is not just fighting suspects. She may also be fighting the system above her. And if that pressure intensifies, expect mistakes. Expect panic. Expect somebody to make a reckless move. Because the closer this case gets to the truth, the more dangerous Weatherfield becomes. And here's the really fascinating theory emerging after tonight's episode. What if Theo's murder was not impulsive at all? What if somebody deliberately constructed a crime scene designed to spread suspicion across multiple people? Think about it. Every clue so far feels emotionally convenient. Almost too convenient. Gary's violent history. Summer's journal fantasies. Todd's suffering. Danielle's bitterness. Brody's fingerprints. It's as though someone wanted every possible suspect tangled together. Which raises a terrifying possibility. Could the real killer still be completely invisible? Could the investigation itself be part of the manipulation? And if that is true, Lisa may only just be stepping into the real nightmare. By the end of tonight's episode, one thing became painfully clear. This case is no longer just about solving a murder. It is about discovering who understands everyone else's weaknesses well enough to weaponize them. And that is far more frightening. Because once manipulation enters a murder investigation, nobody stays safe for long. So what do you think? Did Lisa arrest the wrong person? Is Brody hiding something bigger than simple theft? Could Summer actually plead guilty? And who do you believe is manipulating events behind the scenes? We want every theory, every prediction, and every suspicion down in the comments below because this storyline is becoming one of the most layered Corrie mysteries in years. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Coronation Street update. But trust us, Weatherfield's darkest secrets are only just beginning to surface.